One, two, three. 194. Fur, womb of silver pain, you, tomb of leaden grief, vigorous of one vein, alike in leaf, with arms upflung, taunt us in the same tongue, here Jove's own coffin cradle swung. An Assyrian sculpture published by Felix Lejard in his Sur la Culte de Mithra, 1847, shows the year as a 13-branch tree. The tree has 5 bands around the trunk, and the scepter-like branches are arranged 6 on each side, 1 at the summit. Here, evidently, the Eastern Mediterranean agricultural year beginning in the autumn has been related to the solar year beginning at the winter solstice. For there is a small ball representing a new solar year suspended above the last 3 branches, and of the 2 rampant goats which act as supporters to the tree device, the one on the right, which has turned his head so that his single horn forms a crescent moon, rests a forefoot on the uppermost of these last 3 branches, while the other goat, a she-goat, turning her head in the opposite direction so that her horn forms a decrescent moon, is claiming the first 3 branches. She has a full udder, appropriate to this season, because the first kids are dropped about the winter solstice. A boat-like new moon swims above the tree, and a group of 7 stars, the 7th very much brighter than the others, is placed beside the she-goat, which proves her to be Amalthea, mother of the horned Dionysius. The he-goat is an Assyrian counterpart of Azazel, the scapegoat sacrificed by the Hebrews at the beginning of the agricultural year. The 5 bands on the tree, of which one is at the base of the trunk, another at the top, are the 5 stations of the year in a Babylonian tree of the year published in the same book. They are symbolized by 5 fronds. In the light of this knowledge, we can re-examine the diagram of the hand used as a signaling keyboard by the Druids and understand the puzzling traditional names of the 4 fingers. Forefinger, fool's finger, leech or psychic finger, and oracular or ear finger in terms of the mythic value of the letters contained on them. The slight difference in order of letters between the Beth Louis Nyan and the Babeloth does not affect the argument, though I believe that the system was based on tree meanings of the Beth Louis Nyan, because in one of the ancient tales, a really dark night is described by a poet as one in which a man could not distinguish oak leaf from hazel, nor study the 5 fingers of his own stretched out hand. The forefinger has Dur on it, the oak god, who is the foremost of the trees, surmounted by Lewis, the rowan, a charm against lightning. The fool's finger has Tin on it, the holly king or green knight, who appears in the Old English Christmas play. A survival of the Saturnalia as the fool who is beheaded but rises up who rises up again unhurt. The leech finger has Call on it, the sage hazel, who is the master physician. The ear finger, in French Duget Argicolaire, is based on the 2 death letters Ruus and Idaho, and therefore has oracular power, as they still say in France of a person who gets information from a mysterious source. Son petit doit le dit. Auricular finger is usually explained as the finger most easily put into one's ear hole, but the earliest sense of auricular is secretly whispered in the ear. The auricular finger was probably used by the Gallic and British Druids for stopping the ear as an aid to inspiration. Its divinatory character was established early enough in Western Europe for it to appear in a number of folk tales concerning the loss of a little finger or a little toe by an ogre's daughter. The hero of the story finds it, and it enables him to win the ogre's permission to marry the daughter. These stories occur in Brittany, Lorraine, the West Highlands, Viscaya in Spain, and Denmark. In the Romance of Taliesin, it is the little finger of Elfin's wife that is said to have been magically cut off. The ring finger is another name for the leech finger. The Romans and Greeks used the thumb, sacred to Venus, for their seal rings, which were usually made of iron. These were prophylactic charms to maintain their virility, the thumb being a synonym for the phallus and iron a complement to Venus's husband, the smith god Vulcan. But for their wedding rings, they used the fourth finger of the left hand. This custom was explained by Macrobius, who wrote in the 5th century AD on 2 grounds: that this was the finger in least use of the 10 and the least capable of individual movement, therefore the safest to wear precious jewels upon. And here, quoting the authority of the 1st century writer Appian, that in this finger an artery runs direct to the heart. The artery to the heart is an astrological rather than anatomical observation, though a small vein, which the ancients could not distinguish from an artery, does show at the bottom joint, because in the late classical apportionment of the human body to the planetary influences, it is Apollo, sun god and healer, who rules the heart, as Venus rules the kidneys, Mercury the lungs, Diana, moon, the head, and so on. The fourth finger is thus used as the ring finger because the prophylactic wedding ring, made of gold in honor of Apollo, controls the heart, which is the seat of enduring love. The artery legend is also quoted in medieval context by the 16th century German humanist Levinus Lemnius, who records that the ancient physicians from whom the finger derives its name of physic finger used to mix the medicaments and potions with it, on the theory that no poison can adhere even to its extreme tip without communicating itself directly to the heart. Precisely the same system survives in popular chiromancy, which is late classical in origin. Palmists give the forefinger to Jupiter, the oak god, the middle finger to Saturn, the Christmas fool, the fourth finger, in German also called the gold finger, to the sun, Apollo, the sun god, having latterly become the patron of physicians and god of wisdom generally, and the little finger to Mercury in his aspect of conductor of dead souls. The moon has the heel of the palm, being the underworld goddess from whom Mercury derives his inspiration. Venus, the thumb, as a phallic emblem, and Mars, the center of the hand in which the weapon is gripped. His initial M is formed by the principal lines of the hand. A bronze votive hand from Phrygia dedicated to Zeus Sabazius, a rustic Jupiter, contains a little finger in Phrygian cap and breeches, with his feet resting on a ram's head, holding up thumb, forefinger, and middle finger in what is called the Latin blessing. Venus's thumb for increase, Jupiter's forefinger for fortunate guidance, Saturn's middle finger for rain. He is imitating the posture of the hand in which he is held, and on the forefinger is perched Jupiter's eagle. It was not so much a blessing as a proprietary gesture used before embarking on a speech or recital. Greek and Latin orators never omitted it. The devil's blessing, still used by the Phrygian islanders, consists in raising the forefinger and ear finger of the right hand with the other fingers and the thumb folded against the palm. This is an invocation to the horn god of the witches, with his lucky right horn and his unlucky left expressing the powers for good and evil. The Apollo finger is connected with the poplar in the story of the sun god Phaeton, whose sisters wept for him when he died. They were metamorphosed into poplars and their tears into amber, sacred to Apollo. The Saturn finger is connected with the heather in the story of Osiris, the Egyptian Saturn. Osiris was enclosed in a heather tree, and the lowest consonant on the finger, the reed, was sacred to Osiris as king of Egypt. According to the well-informed 14th century antiquarian Richard Cirencester, rich southern Britons of the 3rd century AD wore gold rings on the fool's finger. In the B.L.F. alphabet, this finger belonged to Bron, whom they must by then have learned from the Romans to identify with Osiris. To wear a ring on the fool's finger naturally expressed a hope of resurrection. The thumb of Venus is connected with the palm tree by its sacredness to the orgiastic goddess Isis, Latona, or Lat. Lat was the mother of Nabatean Dusres, the vine god worshipped in Egypt, and the lowest consonant on the thumb was the vine. The Jupiter finger is connected with the furze or gorse by the spring gorse fires burned in his honor as god of shepherds. The connection of the Mercury finger with the U is made by Mercury's conducting of souls to the place presided over by the death goddess Hecate, alias his mother Maya, to whom the U was sacred. It is fitting that the most sensitive part of the hand, the tip of the forefinger, should belong to Lewis as the diviner. But all the fingertip trees, Lewis the rowan, Nion the ash, Fern the alder, and Salil the willow, were used in divination. This perhaps throws light on an Irish poetic rite called the Dechtal du Chenabe, recital from the finger ends, of which the Olav was required to be a master, and which Dr. Joyce describes as the utterance of an extempore prophecy or poem that seems to have been accomplished with the aid of a mnemonic contrivance of some sort in which the fingers played a principal part. St. Patrick, while abolishing two other prophetic rites, the imbus forense, palm knowledge of enlightenment, and other like it, because they involved preliminary sacrifice to demons, permitted the recital from the finger ends because it did not. In Cormac's glossary of Dechtal du Chenab is explained, in my day it is by the ends of his finger bones that the poet accomplishes the rites in this manner. When he sees the person or thing before him, he makes a verse at once with his finger ends or in his mind without studying, and composes and repeats at the same time. All right. It is less likely that mnemonic trick involving the use of the finger alphabet was used than that the poets induced a poetic trance by treating their fingertips as oracular agents, since the Dechtal du Cheneb is always mentioned with the other two divinatory rites as the same general nature.